Hi everyone, it's Sandy and today I'm doing my June wrap-up. I had a very successful reading month and I managed to read 11 books, so let's get started because this is probably going to be a long video. The first book that I read in June is The Winter's Kiss by Marie Rakowski. This is the third and final book in the Winter's trilogy. I ended up giving this book a 3.5 out of 5 stars because I just lost interest in the trilogy. I hate when that happens, and it does happen quite frequently when I read sequels. I just am not as connected or invested in the characters anymore, and that is exactly what happened when I read this book. I also felt pretty annoyed by Kestrel and Aaron's characters at times. However, this book reminded me of how amazing Kestrel is as a character. She is so intelligent and strategic. I'm going to be very vague here as possible, but there was something in this book that happened to one of the characters and I wasn't happy about that. But overall, I do like how the story wrapped up, so that is why I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read is The Crown by Kiera Cass. This is the fifth and final book in the Selection series, and to be honest, I was pretty disappointed by it. Going into this book, I didn't expect to be wowed or anything. I just wanted to read something fun and nothing serious. Plus, it was available at the library, so I decided to just check it out. Even though the book started off slow, I did enjoy it for what it was until I got to the ending. I did like seeing Evelyn's character develop because in the air she was really bratty and spoiled, but in this book she's a lot more mature and she's taking on all these new responsibilities. However, some of the decisions in this book had me in disbelief, and this doesn't relate to who Evelyn ends up picking. I had two people in mind that I would have been happy if Evelyn picked either one of them. While I am satisfied with Evelyn's choice, the second she declared her love to that character, their feelings for one another was just magnified to the point where I was just irritated by it. The ending of the story was just really rushed. There was a lot of things going on. So basically the last 50 to 100 pages of the book is what made me really dislike the story. So I ended up giving it a 2.5 out of 5 stars, but I'll probably change it to like a 2 stars. Moving on, the next book that I read is The Problem with Forever by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is her newest YA contemporary book following a girl named Mallory who has been homeschooled for a few years now, and during her senior year of high school she decides to go to public school. When she enters this high school, she runs into a guy named Ryder who she has known while she was in the foster care system. At the beginning of the book, Mallory has already been adopted and she's no longer in the foster care system, but this guy from her past who she was really close with is now back into her life. I thought Mallory was a really wonderful character and I loved seeing her grow throughout the story. Going into this book, I didn't think I would feel so connected to Mallory's character, but I really do. I felt for Mallory's fear and anxiety when it comes to speaking in public and having social interactions, and I just loved seeing all the progress that she makes throughout the story. With every step that she takes, no matter how small, she would feel incredibly proud of herself, and so did I. I really love seeing those moments and I was constantly rooting for her. The story itself was a bit slow paced, but I didn't mind it at all. I don't remember reading a book that dealt with the topic of foster care and adoption. Since I've never been adopted and have never experienced the foster care system, I'm not sure how accurate it is portrayed. However, I did attend a Jennifer L. Armentrout book signing for the release of this book, and she talked about the research that she did for this book and that she had a friend who was in the foster care system. You do hear stories about negative experiences in the foster care system, but there are also people who have really great experience. And I really like that she portrays both the good and the bad. And as for the romance, I thought it was really good. I love that Ryder was constantly looking out for Mallory, but I also love that Mallory wasn't like completely dependent on Ryder. Since Ryder was a part of Mallory's life for her childhood, I like that they have this history together, and I just think Ryder was a really great guy. Also, I love that there are parental figures in this book. Most characters in YA books do have some sort of parental figures, but they aren't really talked about in the story. But I love the presence of Mallory's adoptive parents. I also really love her friendship with Ainsley. I'm pretty sure Jennifer L. Armentrout is writing a spin-off book following Ainsley's character, and it's called The Possibility of Tomorrow. So I'm really looking forward to that because I want to know more about Ainsley. I think she's a really cool character. Overall, this was an emotional and inspirational read for me on a personal level. I did tear up multiple times and I do recommend this book. I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read is The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson. This is the second book in the Mistborn series. The Final Empire is the first book, and I do have a review on it if you want to hear more of my thoughts and what this series is really about. Since this is the second book, I won't go into too much details. I didn't like this book as much as the first because I think it was a lot slower paced, and it did take me a while to get back into the story because it has been a few months since I read the first book. Like always, Brandon Sanderson never fails to surprise me, and I love the world that he builds and the characters in his books. I rated this book a 4.5 out of 5 stars, and I hope to read the third book sometime this summer. The next book that I read is also another Brandon Sanderson book, and it is Calamity, which is the third book in the Reckoners trilogy. The first book is called Steelheart, and it follows a group of people called the Reckoners, and their goal is to kill off epics. And epics are people who develop superpowers, and they get corrupted by these powers and turn evil, basically. This book would have been a 5-star read, but the ending of it left me a bit unsatisfied because there were things that weren't explained well and I had some unanswered questions. To avoid spoilers, I'm not going to be naming this character, but there was a character whose powers become a lot more complex. While it was pretty cool, I also found it pretty confusing. I didn't quite understand how it worked and the limitations of this character's powers. I also really enjoyed the romance. It's not your typical angsty teen romance, which was really refreshing to read about because this is the type of romance where once the characters are together, they're basically together. Since the Reckoners are a group of people, I just really enjoyed seeing them work together as a team. I love their group dynamic and I love the humor they all shared with one another. I also found out that there will be a spin-off series, so hopefully that spin-off series will answer some of the questions that were left open. I ended up giving this book a 4 out of 5 stars. So one of my reading goals this year was to reread more books. I ended up rereading one book in January, but I haven't picked up another book to reread for the next several months until June. In June, I managed to reread not 1, not 3, but 2 books. The first one that I reread was Obsidian by Jennifer L. Armentrout. In this book, our main character Katie moves to West Virginia and she discovers that her aliens are neighbors? No. That her neighbors are aliens. It's been 2.5 years since I first read this book, and so I really like just being back into the Katie and Damon world. There were a lot of things that I forgot that happened, and this book just reminded me how awesome Katie is as a character. Not only is she hilarious, but she's really snarky and sassy, and I especially love that she doesn't take shit from characters that are trying to put her down. So overall, it was a really fun and entertaining read. The next book that I reread was Frostbite by Rochelle Mead. In my summer TBR video, I mentioned that I wanted to reread Vampire Academy, and I did pick up that book first, but after reading about 30 pages, I was just like, no, this is way too familiar because I did watch the movie again a few months ago, so everything was still kind of fresh in my mind, so I decided to just go ahead and pick up the second book instead. Frostbite is my least favorite Vampire Academy book, but I still really enjoyed it. Even though I saw what was coming towards the end, I still got really emotional and I cried over it. And Adrian Ivashkov was introduced in this book, and he is one of my favorite characters, so I really love seeing how he was like at the very beginning of the series because his character changes a lot throughout the Vampire Academy and Bloodline series. It felt really nice being back in the Vampire Academy world because I miss it and it's one of my favorite series. The next book that I picked up was Wicked by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is a new adult paranormal book and I picked it up because it was like 99 cents on Kindle, so I immediately bought it. I'm not sure if it's still 99 cents, but go check it out, maybe it is. This book follows Ivy, who is 22 years old and she is a part of the Order, which means she hunts and kills fae. I can't believe it took me so long to read this book. It's been on my TBR ever since I heard that it was coming out. I'm really glad I finally picked it up. As with any other Jennifer L. Armentrout book, I really enjoyed it. I flew through the book. One of my favorite things about this book is the setting. It takes place in New Orleans and I just really love the way Jennifer L. Armentrout describes everything. Also, there was a really awesome side character named Tink. I'm not going to go into too much details about this character, but he is just full of sass and I loved every single scene with him in it. I really liked the romance as well. It was really well developed. I like that there wasn't too much drama or too much angst surrounding these two characters. It was really refreshing to read a book with a romance that wasn't consistently hot and cold, because we've all read a book where there is a romance like that and it's really frustrating. The main love interest is named Ren and I really loved how he was so straightforward about his feelings for Ivy. The plot of this book was also very interesting. I haven't read many books that have to do with just about fae. The first one that I can think of is A Court of Thorns and Roses, but I can't think of any other book that has to do with fae, and this is one of them. And also there isn't a lot of new adult paranormal books, so I just really enjoyed this book and I ended up giving it a 4.25 out of 5 stars. The sequel is coming out in July, so I'm really looking forward to reading that. The next book that I read is Killer Instinct by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is the second book in the Naturals series. The first book, The Naturals, follows our main character Cassie, who is a natural at profiling people. She is approached by the FBI and she joins their Naturals program that consists of other people that have some sort of natural ability, and they help the FBI solve cold cases. I enjoyed the first book, but this book is so much better than the first one. It takes serial killing to a whole new level. incredible. I was just blown away with all the crazy things that happen. I did have problems with the romance in the first book, but the romance in this one does take a backseat. Although I still did have a few problems with it in this book, overall I liked how it played out. The story is very plot driven and I love it. The author continues to surprise you even when you think things are revealed. She just throws something at you and it just blows you away. I've mentioned The Naturals a few times on my channel already, and every time I talk about it I mention that it's perfect for fans of Criminal Minds, and I'm going to reiterate that because if you're a fan of that show, you will really enjoy these books. They're just as gripping, intense, and full of suspense. I rate this book a 4.5 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read is Stay With Me by Jay Lynn. As you can see, I read a lot of Jennifer L. Armentrout books, but it's all good because I love her books. This book is a part of a new adult companion series. It's the third book. The first one is called Wait For You. I'm not going to say what this book is about because I really do think you should go into these books not knowing anything about it. I really enjoyed this book. I think the author does a great job at balancing drama, romance, and all the lighthearted moments within her books. I did get a bit frustrated with how frequent the main character would always jump to conclusions, but I really love seeing her relationship with Jax develop. Since this is a companion series, I always love seeing characters from the previous books. Overall, I rate this book a 4 out of 5 stars. And the last book that I read in June is Up in the Treehouse by K.K. Allen. This is a new adult contemporary book that comes out on July 19th, so I won't talk too much about this book in this wrap-up because I do plan on filming a review video and posting it around the time that it comes out, so stay tuned for that. This book follows Gavin and Chloe, who have been best friends since they were 12, and on the night of their high school graduation, something tragic happened, and so since Chloe is going to a college out of state, she ends up moving away, but 4 years later she goes back to her hometown, and so she has to come to terms and face the consequences of what happened 4 years ago. I thought the romance was super cute and I love all the different themes throughout this book. Those are my very brief thoughts. I'll definitely go more in depth in my review video. I ended up giving this book a 4 out of 5 stars. I received a package in the mail yesterday, and I received it after filming my June wrap-up because I forgot that I pre-ordered this book, so I thought I would include a surprise mini book unboxing at the end of this video, so let's open it. Oh my gosh, this cover is beautiful. This book is The Darkest Magic by Morgan Rose. This is the second book in the Fallen Kingdom spin-off series called A Book of Spirits and Thieves. I'm very excited to read it. I'll probably pick it up sometime in July. Those are all the books that I read in June. If you've read any of these books, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it and I will see you next time. Bye!